Hello and welcome to the second episode of the AIIMAS launch. We thank you for the hearty support and love given by you all to our inaugural episode. Today, we are very honored and delighted to have with us Supreme Court designated Senior Advocate Ms. N.S. Nappinai. Ms. N.S. Nappinai ma'am is a leading cyber law expert. She is the founder of the popular NGO Cyber Sathi, which focuses on cyber laws and cyber safety. An illustrious career of 30 to 33 years has seen ma'am appear in cases pertaining to constitutional, criminal, RPR, and cyber laws, including as amicus curiae in the Prajwala case before the Supreme Court of India. Ma'am is the alumna of Leadership Fellowship of Stanford CDDRL, Achieving Cybersecurity UK, and IVLP IPR USA. Ms. Nappinai ma'am has not only presented as expert before the parliamentary and government committees, but has also contributed before the UN in the formulation of the new Cybercrime Convention proposal. She is the author of Technology Law Decoded, N.S. Nappinai ma'am, and her latest publication, Sassy Tales, Cybercrime Stories and the Law, has also been registered. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here with us today. We're looking forward to your valuable insights and learning from your journey in the niche field of cyber law. We welcome you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me.
My first question would be, at what point of life did you decide to choose law as your profession and what attracted you to become a lawyer?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of this show. It may sound a little strange, but I actually decided that I wanted to become a lawyer when I was in my 7th grade. And it's really heartening to say that the passion burns bright till date. So here I am, 33 years into the practice, and I have to also tell you, even during the early days, of studying, in my time, we didn't have this concept of internships. But I was so keen, I was so clear, and technically I'm a first generation lawyer. So I come from a family of lawyers, but my father's generation broke it. So by the time I decided to get into law, no one from the previous generation was even alive. So starting from scratch. So I was so passionate that I said, no, I have to learn it the way I would have if I had somebody in the family. And I started my internships with my senior, therefore, from my 3rd year of law.
So you were very passionate about the career since like 7th grade.
7th grade, and stuck with it and continued till.
I think even when I was in my 8th grade, I was reading my father's law, so I was reading his file one day and I decided, okay, I'll be a lawyer too. And then we had that sensitive topic at that time about LGBTQ. So that made me, get inspired to be in the field.
Wonderful.
And you said that you're like the first generation lawyer, so it's inspiring for anyone who's new to the field, who's a first generation lawyer, to see the success you've had now. And you have. My question is again on the career. Have you had any guidance or mentorship that significantly influenced your career?
100%. See, particularly in fields like ours, you need mentors. So I didn't have a mentor, I had mentors. I would say that at every stage of my career, I would say my career, even from the time when I was studying, at every stage I feel that I had somebody mentoring me and guiding me. And it's very heartening because often it is not like the mentors believe that they are going to gain something from you. They were just doing what they thought was right, and it is kind of like the paid forward process. So you would have someone just making a random statement which may actually end up guiding you better. You may have someone taking a conscious effort to mentor you, and that helps you along. So I'll just give a few examples. In my first book, I started the dedication to my seniors with the classic line of Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, and Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. And the reason for that, I mentioned both of my seniors, Sri N.T. Vanamamada and Gopinath, because here I was a very enthusiastic young student who is like a little troublesome because they're not used to having such youngsters in their chambers, and it was a very august chamber in Tamil Nadu, in Madras. I insisted I will do only criminal law. That was my passion. I did law to practice criminal law, and that's where I started. So you can imagine two fairly senior people being, having to literally babysit this kid in college and who's extremely enthusiastic and who wants to learn a lot, but who has not had that kind of exposure in-house, right? And that's literally the kind of exposure I craved. So my input here for anybody who's listening would be this, there is nothing wrong with wanting more, especially if that greed is with respect to knowledge. So I'm really happy to say that throughout my journey, and I continue to be that way, my greed has always been for knowledge and more. And as a lawyer, you cannot stop learning. You have to keep learning always. Always understand that there is probably that bit more which someone else may know, which you don't know. That humility also helps. So I had my seniors as mentors to begin with. All the people in our chamber at some point of time would have been my mentors too. My family were mentors too. When I moved to Mumbai, this was a wonderful outcome too. I was very keen. I was already into cyber laws. I was way ahead of my time, So I was specializing in intellectual property rights along with criminal and constitutional. Constitutional is, given for any lawyer for that matter. So intellectual property rights in a way led me into cyber. And this was around 94, 95 when people had not heard of something called as software licenses. So I was handling cases pertaining to license violations and enforcements for ensuring adherence to software license, enforcement against piracy of software licensing, etc. That led me to read more, to find out what more beyond intellectual property rights. And I was at the perfect time when cyber laws were evolving. You had data protection laws coming out around then. You had modern laws from UN being formulated. And the world was moving into the world of cyber. India was still just evaluating at that time. And then the Information Technology Act came out in 2000. I was part of a co-committee at that time too. Unfortunately, and these are all lessons, for all up-and-coming lawyers, and therefore I'm sharing this. I attended 2 of the committee meetings, and after that I had to opt out because it was too expensive for me to travel all the way to Delhi to just participate in a 1-hour meeting. So you can imagine what else I could have done if I could have continued on that path from 2000 itself. Right? So I predate the IT Act in terms of my passion for cyber laws and my learnings in it. And I'm very happy to say that post 2000, I would say, in fact, Bombay or Mumbai, as we call it now, led the fray with what we called a Cyber Safety Week. So every February, we used to hold this 1 week of cyber safety related events targeting every stakeholder. So on the legal side, we had sessions for judiciary, public prosecutors, police. Then we had, for the user facing, we had events for students, both school and college students. And very interesting, again ahead of its time, events for housing societies. Yeah? And then of course we had a lot of events for industry bodies. So this initiative was one of the first public facing process that I involved myself in. The earliest stage in terms of training judiciary and police, etc. Of course, then it became a lot more formalized with trainings for in academies, then national and state judicial and police academies, etc. Training or imparting or sharing, I would say, my knowledge with armed forces was again another very heartwarming exercise. You get into these kind of initiatives not for any other reason except that you want to contribute to nation building. And I'm really glad that I got the opportunity. And we were talking about mentors. So I wanted to emphasize how it was because of various mentors at each stage. When I moved to Mumbai, I had a very successful practice in Chennai. And I did not move to Mumbai thinking I'm getting married and moving, but I thought I was opening another office. So my Chennai office continued and I opened my Mumbai office. Later on, for personal reasons, I closed my Chennai office and focused only on Mumbai. So those kind of changeover phases are very tough for professionals, particularly for lawyers, because we don't have a structured system to help us move along. It's a lot of hard work, but you also need a bit of luck to go with it. And what I consider as my luck has always been people. The kind of friends I've made, the kind of people I've had the privilege to interact with, and their contribution to my confidence and encouragement that they extended to me, and that the strong conviction they had in Nappinai. That was very critical for me, and I would say, therefore, for any practitioner in any field, mentors are critical. But remember, it's how you use that mentorship, how you apply it in everyday life, that matters.
Very insightful, Mike. You've given us a sneak peek also about your career, illustrious career. So, about that, what was the one time when your career challenged you, and how do you mitigate those challenges?
One aspect is what I already pointed out, which was this move. So imagine, there is this construct called as constructive destruction. So whenever you want to build something new, you consciously implode or destroy something that's existing. I feel that I have actually repeatedly done that in my life. So as I mentioned to you earlier, I had an extremely successful career in Chennai before the Madras High Court. And, anyone who knew me at that point of time would not have thought that Nappinai would move to Mumbai and close down her office in Chennai or close down her practice before the Madras High Court. Like that would have been unimaginable for people who knew me then. And then I started afresh and built from scratch. No godfather, like I said, no legacy practice to rely on. Started from scratch and built what I did in Mumbai before the Bombay High Court. Again, I'm really grateful for the kind of openness and the way the Bombay High Court adopted me, adapted to me, or I adapted to it. And you must feel welcome. If you feel that any place of work is closing you out, it is kind of like closing ranks and keeping you out of it. That can be the most challenging situation for you. It can demotivate you, and it can actually demoralize you to an extent where you may actually give up something that you have always believed was your holy grail. Right? So I'm really grateful that that kind of a situation did not happen to me in Mumbai. But on this note also, I want to just put in a qualifier here. Many times I've heard various things like gender being an issue, you being the outsider being an issue because you're from some other place and therefore you're the outsider there, right? You're the outlier. Sometimes being an outlier, being in cyber laws can be an issue too, because most people forget that I predate cyber laws. I have been practicing and specializing way before cyber laws became a thing, right? So many times people would say, oh, I didn't know you practiced criminal law. I didn't know you did original side in Bombay. And I thought you only did cyber laws. And I'd say, if I'm 33 years in practice, clearly I did something else before cyber came into India, right? So your successes can also be a challenge too. And sometimes what people tell you can be interpreted in two ways, and this is where being Nappinai has helped me a lot. Pardon me for saying it like that, but it's literally that way. I call it, it's complete oblivion. Okay. I am so focused on myself in the sense that I don't focus on myself on work. I'm totally outward facing on that. But when it comes to evaluating myself, when it comes to deciding am I good enough for this, when it comes to deciding what is it that I want to do, am I capable of doing that, I look internally and I decide whether, I take a reality check to see if I can do this or not. I don't look to a third person to judge me. So if somebody else is judging me also, mostly I must have been very oblivious to what they were saying. I'm also taking it in a positive way, in the sense, if somebody tells me you're not capable of doing it, I didn't look at it as something that was demoralizing. I would look at it as, oh, you're throwing a challenge at me, thanks for that, and I'll just take it as a challenge and do it. Yes, that's what being Nappinai is about.
We all try to be Nappinai.
That's okay.
Ma'am, you have a punditry in the field of cyber laws, and I think you were ahead of time for cyber laws. In a profession where lawyers normally tend to keep their work field expansive and do a wide range of matters, what made you identify cyber law as your area of expertise? You did give us a little peek of what made you go for cyber laws, but anything else which made you choose cyber law as your expertise?
So initially the choice was organic. As I told you, my first love was criminal law, and it in a way continues to be, and some of my friends rag me by saying that, Nappinai is good in talking on all topics, but when she speaks about criminal law, you can see the twinkle in her eyes, the passion coming out, right? So criminal law and IPR were the original passion in a way. But for me, law was the passion, not just any field. And here I think it was actually this inclination towards technology. The interest that I had in understanding technology and how it was evolving, how it is being applied in our everyday life. In a way, I feel that drove me into cyber laws. It was the other way around.
Breaking the stereotype that women are not good with technology.
Well, I have been told that too. A woman, and a sari-clad woman at that, and you can speak about blockchain better than the technologists. And this is something which the gentleman thought was a compliment. I faced that too. But yes, so cyber laws came out of a passion for technology and also wanting to evaluate how laws can be applied to this emerging field. So, when you're at that cutting edge, when you're at that stage where everything is just evolving, it's a great time to be there. Especially as a young practitioner. At that time, I still was young.
Yes,
I believe so. That's why the inquisitiveness still burns bright. So, at that stage, here is an opportunity for you to be able to contribute and grow along with the field. You don't have people who are already established in this field. You are the early player there.
There's not a lot of pressure in the field.
The pressure is actually on you because you are supposed to know the field better than the others, right? Yeah. So, but at the same time, that's why I said nothing can substitute hard work. But if you put in that hard work, the dividends are there.
Ma'am, what according to you are the values and skills a young lawyer should carry to sustain the field of law? How can a law student map their way towards the field of cyber law?
It's a very difficult question, but I'll try to answer it from my perspective of what I did and what I've seen some of the associates or colleagues who have crossed my office threshold do. The first and foremost, of course, needless to say, is commitment. If you're not committed, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then you must evaluate what else are you passionate about. I'll just give a simple example. I had a junior who was very good. She was a very sweet person, hardworking. So why I'm putting this as the first thing is because this incident will explain it. And very hardworking and very committed. Right? But one day when I came back from court, I was shocked to see her crying, and then I had to sit her down and ask her what was the problem. Long story short, She was doing what she believed she had to because she was in my office. But this is not what she wanted to do for the rest of her life. And we did a couple of mentoring sessions, what you were talking about earlier. And it turned out that her passion was teaching. And I can tell you that the happy ending there was her family also agreed and she moved into teaching thereafter. So when I say commitment, it's also commitment to the work that you're doing in terms of carrying forward a passion. If this is what you see yourself doing for the rest of your life. And the cautionary tale here is nobody stops you from changing your decision later. But today, at the time when you're doing something, you must feel that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, or this is what I enjoy doing. The kind of output that you will give will be very different. All the other things you must have heard from many people about hard work. I myself emphasized it many times. And, attention to details. Particularly as a lawyer, you cannot risk being casual about your work because we have to keep remembering time and again other people's lives are in our hands, be it a criminal or a civil matter, right? Any kind of work you're doing, you are actually dealing with other people's lives. So the kind of onus on you is that much higher. Same like with a doctor, right? Other people's lives are in their hands and similarly for us. So we have to be able to show that additional attention to details and care. And that brings me to one of my favorite topics, and this is something which has not been spoken enough sufficiently, I would say. Ethics of care. If you go back and read about it, you'll realize that a lot has been written about and talked about ethics of care and a little about its impact in the field of law. Be it a judge, a prosecutor, police, or a practicing lawyer, it could be a defense lawyer, a private practitioner, wherever you are. This ethics of care makes you stand out from the others, which means whenever you're dealing with a problem, put yourself in the shoes of the other person. What is it that ails them? What is it they would want? Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the outcome that you expect? And work backwards. You will see that your output will improve substantially. See, it's easy for us to talk about research and writing skills, etc. But all that will happen if you have the ethics of care. Yeah. So that's why I would like to emphasize this as the most critical aspect. And ethics of care will also then flow into my last input here, which is communication. We always say that as a lawyer, your communication skills have to be exemplary because that is the tool of the trade, right? Talking, speaking, communicating your thoughts, right? But there is also another kind of communication which is very critical for lawyers. And this I find is a little, it's falling a bit short nowadays. And I hope they would include this in college curriculum too, which is communicating with people around you, meaning communicating with your seniors, communicating with your clients, communicating with peers. You will not believe me, but just put this in action and see the difference. I keep often repeating to my juniors that, a client will forgive you for losing a case, but they will never forgive you for not communicating the loss to them. That's what I mean by communication here. So one, of course, the skill set in terms of how well, how crisply and how clearly you communicate your case, be it to a judge, be it to in negotiations or to the other side during discussions or pre-adversarial litigation, etc. That communication is critical, but this may be a lot more critical too. And why I said about communication with peers also is many a war can be won without bloodshed with this kind of communication skills. Because often the way you communicate also decides what is going to be the relationship between the counsels for both sides. It's not just the clients who are adversaries. In my time, we understood that it was only parties who were fighting and not the lawyers. We may behave like cats and dogs inside the court, but the minute we step out of court, we are friends. But nowadays, I see that adversarial tone spill over beyond the threshold too. And that can change if your communication skills are better.
Communication, does it come with time or like there's
No, you have to build everything. You know, there are many things people keep asking me. For instance, memory tricks, right? Everyone says, oh, you were born with it. I say, nobody is born with anything. You know, if you're a lawyer, you know you have to improve your memory. You know you have to be better in communicating.
Awesome.
So you build your skills.
Very insightful.